Trigo.
So here we've loaded the Trigo topography here, red being the highest, green being the lowest. We now have the ability to support a fuel layer. Here we have, it's in a BT format, so you can probably translate that from most GIS packages. Right now we're using how many fuel types? 13?
There's 13 fuel types from the original 13 fuel types.
And so these 13 fuel types have a spread rate that's based on slope going up to 45 degree, 90 degree?
We go up to 60 degrees right now.
Up to 60 degrees, and then wind going up to 45 miles per hour?
60 miles an hour.
60 miles per hour. And then also it also includes a negative slope where we're just assuming no burn down, and then it's just a wind drive. It's a function of wind, but there's not a negative slope. It's assumed just to kind of creep down, as Rob was talking about.
It will creep down the slope, and we reduce the wind going down slope, and actually use the zero wind burn rate for a flat.
So we can actually light the fire in this mode, Rod, showing different layers. But if we light it while we're in the fuel model and a high wind, say to the west, you should see different burn rates, say in the green areas compared to the blue areas of different fuel types here.
The colors are arbitrary right now, and it's hard to tell which is which, just looking at this. This area there's a lot of grass in the low areas. It's pretty sparse grass, and it goes to chaparral, and then it goes to forest high in the mountains. And of course these fuel types from Behave don't burn the treetops. It's just the stuff on the forest floor. So it tends to slow down when it hits the forest.
So I'm going to move you in a little closer.
I think that's good enough to get him the feel for that. If you wanted to move to
Firefighting.
the firefighting.
Yeah, let me. I'll just move a little closer for him when we do the firefighting anyway. So you can see the variable burn rates based on the fuel type. And we might as well just fight it here. So I'll slow down. You can see now that we, down in that corner, if you could pan over there, Chaz, you can see that we now have number of acres burned and time in the fire. You can see now we're going to almost a real-time time scale, or we can even pause it, and at this point, let your students indicate where they might deploy their tankers and Type 1 and Type 2 crews. Over in the menu here, we have the ability to select your air tanker, which currently says bomber, but we'll change that to tanker.
Chip, can you write that on the list, because that was something.
Yeah, I'm putting that on here.
Okay.
And so now I'm going to select, we've heard some feedback with some firefighters that they like to put an X in front of the head of the fire. I'm not sure what good strategy is, but this is, so I'll just go ahead and do that though. So I'll put we put a start point and an end point for this tanker, indicating our intention of where we want him to start his drop and complete it. And then we'll start it over here and complete the other one over here.
Steve, can we go to the green background so he can see those lines?
Yes. So after I put that down, I'm going to change to the, turn off the fuel layer and see basically the first run and the second run. They're currently colored red. Triggered the...
Yeah, I did that.
So if I start the simulation now, it'll take about a half hour, and that's a configurable parameter for that drop to actually occur. And I'll speed up.
And it'll turn blue, and it's actually 1 hour right now.
Okay. So we'll wait for that to happen. And in the meantime, too, I can start putting in a Type 1 crew, indicating where I want them to start, maybe near the heel, and follow the edge of the fire. And we also have Type 2 crews. The only difference right now is their production rate. We didn't change per hour. So,
and these crews will, after 1 hour, start to come in and go along at the production rate as change per hour is.
So you'll actually see this, there's a gray line here, and you'll actually see that this gray line turn black as they are continuing in the production.
And so you can see that here that the tanker is still red, and it'll turn blue.
Yes.
So it
yeah,
hasn't
this,
dropped yet.
This was about, it's got most of a half an hour to go, it looks like.
So which is some good feedback to a student to say, hey, you got to really plan ahead a little bit more on giving it your target. We were a little bit too close to the head of the fire.
Steve, you're a little too close to the head of the fire there.
Chaz typically is the one that gives
Feedback.
the head of the fire location.
And this
Chaz,
is
can
a
you give me more
high
help,
wind.
please?
We may have 45, 50 miles an hour
Oh,
wind
right,
on
yeah,
there.
yeah.
And that's why, and of course you see more happening on the screen, so it's more interesting, but that's why, yeah, there go our bombers are now there. Now, all they do now is delay the fire for 1 hour.
So it's basically retarding the fire, changing the fuel a little bit in that area.
Yeah, the fuel basically just hits a delay of 1 hour. And you can see these had already snuck through. The yellow is already starting to burn. So that little tip just got through just before it went.
And so the production rates are scaled to the current scale of what we're looking at the table. This particular one is probably a 10-mile scale from west to east. Other neighborhood scales where you might be training, this might represent just 500 feet, so you'd see that production rate much faster.
Why don't we